You are listening to Therapeutic Astrology Podcast, which is really about how to live a better life. And today I'm very happy to welcome NY Patriot, who is a digital creator and who is sick and tired of seeing the human race be manipulated by magic and secret societies. That's my presentation of you, NY Patriot. And I think this totally relates to having a better life, because a part of that is also this critique and having open eyes around what is going on in society. So what I want to ask you first is to give me all the names of your shows, because you have many podcasts and I think I found them all, but I'm not sure. So can you just tell the listeners all what is it that you do and what are the different channels they can find you on?
I have the NY Patriot show. That's what I started off with originally. Then I do have the Occult Rejects, was something that I did with a co-host that I wanted to do a podcast with a co-host, cover specific topics. So I have the Occult Rejects, and then I do have a show that I co-host with Teresa. It's called the Spiritual Gangsters. I mean, that's really more of like her baby, and I'm kind of like there hang out. And I mean, I really do love doing the show, but that one's like a little bit more about kind of like having guests on, or just like we have Clown World Weekly now, where we kind of just cover the silly stuff in the news for the last week, and kind of joke about it.
Okay, so the clown is a part of Spiritual Gangster.
Yes.
It's confusing.
Yeah.
There's so many.
Oh, yeah. So we have that, which is all on the same podcast, the
Okay.
Spiritual Gangsters, yeah, Clown World Weekly. So I have that. I have the
Okay.
Occult Rejects, and I have the NY Patriot show.
Right. Okay. And I found you through the Occult Rejects.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because when I first listened, and it's really hard to just listen to one show, because once you found you, then there's so many topics and it's like, oh, it just draws you in. But then I thought that the rejection that came from that the occult is rejected from by the mainstream society. But you actually, I've investigated a little bit more than that. You actually have a story about being a part of an occult society that you then have, I guess, rejected. So is that really the meaning of what is there? It appeals a lot to me, being rejected. I identify with that. So who is the rejects?
It was kind of like it was a huge play on that word. The co-host that I no longer just work with anymore, I will give him credit. He came up with that name.
Okay.
It was more on like, one, we reject what you were saying before, like how we think that secret societies are trying to manipulate people. We don't agree with that. We reject that. We're rejecting ourselves because we both left secret societies, or at least I know I did. I'm not too sure, but I do think my co-host was in something in the past. Not too sure. But that's a whole thing. Plus, like, we're kind of rejects in ourselves, because like even the way we cover occultism isn't technically mainstream, in my opinion. I don't think that we really look at it the same way a lot of other occultists, or people who, I mean, that's the funny thing nowadays. You have people who aren't occultists actually out there trying to demystify stuff. It's like, you actually have no opinion. You should shut up. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, that's
like, you're an armchair magician. You don't know anything, really.
Okay, but
like, even the way we cover stuff may seem different, because we're coming at it from experience, not from just reading a book and being like, oh, I listened to so-and-so last week.
I see. I guess it's a byproduct of occultism getting more into, and I think that's a good thing, that there's more wisdom available, just information is more available.
Yeah.
So then also pieces, fake news, and just some people will just take a piece of it, and me too. I often speak about things I don't completely know anything about. I know a piece about it. I don't know the whole deal. But so what? Okay, so you talk about it in a way that's not mainstream. But what I think is also, is occultism even mainstream? That's also like not accepted by the established society.
Totally, yes. People, I think people get scared about it. Since like, I've been covering true crimes a lot lately, and because I think there is occultism behind some of the ones that are going on now. To me, it's just blatant. And some people, like especially like some big true crime channels that I know that I might conversate with every once in a while on YouTube, they do not want to talk about it, no matter how much proof is there. And I think it's because it scares them.
Who do you talk to on YouTube who don't want to speak about occultism?
I don't want to start putting their names out there.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. No, I mean, but like, I mean, I'll put it like even like Duty Ron. He's a retired cop. I think he has a great true crime channel. The guy
Oh,
doesn't
like
live
that.
away
Okay.
from me. But when it comes to occultism, he really doesn't, want to
Yeah.
bring it up.
Okay, that's the
I
same
get
with.
nervous. I think it makes people nervous because if you don't understand it, you can't put your finger on it, and that makes it scary. So I even think just in society, occultism is just like a touchy subject because I think, in our brains, if I don't understand something, unfortunately, my brain's going to try to lie to me to make sense of it. And I think, that's what happens a lot. Why occultism gets kicked to the side because it's like I don't understand that, so my brain's going to tell me it's not real.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it, ego. You got this.
Yeah, it's like this is the reality that I know, and this is the identity I feel safe in. So it's challenging to go outside of that. But I recognize that a lot from astrology.
Well, I've even done it myself. That's why I even that's the truth because there's been times I haven't looked at things or I haven't studied stuff, and it doesn't have to be with occultism, just anything in general in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to try to figure it out or it scares me or goes against like my ego.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bullshit myself, and I've done it plenty of times.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, sure. Until, right? Then there's this point, and then I'll be like, why? And I'm trying to fix this inside myself. Like, next time I feel a little bit pulled to something, I need to go into it because sometimes I will have heard it. I'll have heard the pulse several times, but then I'll just like, oh, that's not for me. That's a little weird. And then comes a time where I just get obsessed with it, and it opens up worlds for me. So yeah, I relate to that. Don't you think it's a maturity thing?
Yeah, I've even said that myself. It's like, there's been times like, I won't look at something or entertain something. And then like maybe one day when I'm not being biased about it or just, and then like, and I entertain the thought, I could be like, oh, wow, there was some jewels in here. Like, oh, wow, like I learned something different. And
Yeah.
because I was being biased and my brain was like, nah, it doesn't make sense. Don't worry about it. I listen.
Yes. Listen without all those preconceived ideas. That's the difficult part. That's the ongoing difficult part. I'm so happy to be with you. First of all, you are so chill company.
I was looking forward to this. I had really good conversations with you prior. You
Yes.
were very fun to deal with. Just put it that way.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad. It's not all people who enjoy my messages, so I'm glad about that.
No, I was glad you actually hit me up on Instagram. I made it a lot easier.
Yeah. Then emails. Do you get confused if there's too many words?
Well, with the emails, you know what it is? It's just sometimes I go through them to try to clear them out because sometimes it will build up and sometimes I happen to erase the wrong messages. It's my fault, actually.
Oh, I'm just curious to know because sometimes it can be like that. Oh, too many words. Let's just make it a 2 sentence.
Oh, no, that I don't mind. No,
Okay, so I've looked up the definition of a secret society because I think that's pretty relevant too. Because actually, of course, again, like what we were just talking about, I've heard about it, but I've not met anyone who's actually been in it. So that's an honor to meet you right here, and I've met people through your channels. So if the listeners want to check that out, you can meet other people that you speak to who's also have had similar experiences. But a secret society, I looked up, I think a good definition is an organization as a fraternal society, the members of which take secret initiation oaths, share secret passwords and rights, and are bound to assist each other. Yeah, they are bound to assist each other. What do you think about that definition?
That's actually kind of spot on. I mean, the only thing, from my experience with the Ordo Templi Orientis, the OTO, you will also be given like a handshakes or grips, or signs with each initiation. So, It's pretty much the same thing as you said, but toss that in. And that was my experience in the
And
OTO.
what is that? Like burning marks? What is
No,
no,
no, no. Like certain things like you might do like as a
like a gesture.
going like this.
Okay.
Yes, gestures,
Like
yes.
hand gestures and stuff. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're doing a motion of like slicing your waist or bringing this up or pumping your thumb as a way of shaking your hand instead of shaking your hand. Stuff like that.
It's it's partly fun too. I mean, it's kind of fun, but it gets to a point where it's not fun. I've heard you say in, I think it was in an interview, where you said that one time you texted someone real quick and then you got reprimanded because you're not supposed to address another person in that way, that you have a certain way you had to speak
Oh,
to each other.
remember that? Holy shit. I was like, as you were saying that, I was like, when did I say this? And I was like, holy shit. Yo, that's old. I totally forgot that happened. Yes, I had sent out an email once or replied to like an email from the OTO or a text message or something. I replied to something and I got like reprimanded that I didn't like start it off with like do it thou wilt or 93. Or I was like, yo, like this is a fucking text message, woman. Like you can't tell me how I got to send texts.
That is a lot.
I don't
Did,
think it was like an actual official email, which is why it bothered me.
yeah, I think it was the text where you were just answering her question real
Yeah,
quick.
I was like, you're just saying shit because you're the lodge master now, lady.
So, did you adapt to that?
I mean, a little bit,
Yeah.
just because I don't want to fucking hear the shit anymore. But like, I
Yeah.
was already like halfway out the door at that point.
Yeah.
So it was like, to me, it's like, all right, I'll just placate this until I leave.
Mm.
You know, I already knew like again, I've even mentioned before, and I'm sure you've probably heard me say it 100 times. It wasn't like even my first day there. Before I even became a member, I was looking around and just realized like this isn't going to be permanent. This is going to be something I'm just going to utilize. Like, there's no way I could stay here and hang out with these people.
That is an interesting part of it, that you always knew that you didn't want to go to a higher degree in that society, which you could. You can kind of raise up through the labels, I guess. And so, but you've heard of the rituals and how to do the initiation process, and you were like, I'm not doing that. So how could you? I mean, because my background is, there's many pieces to my background, but one big piece is the religion that I've left, right? And I can't help but find similarities. I also find really big differences. So I'm not confusing the two, but I do find similarities because, if it's like a sect, right? There's going to be some manipulation. But
A lot of secret societies pull from major religions too.
right.
I mean, even in the OTO, I mean, people don't people don't like to acknowledge Jesus Christ. But even later on in the initiations, as you get higher up, there is going to be stuff that is associated with the story or the idea of Jesus or occultism.
Like the
Not
cross.
has Jesus in it. I mean, it's
So
like,
sorry, I interrupted you. Can you say that again?
I mean, it's Gnosticism too, which I mean, we'll have the idea of Jesus in there. I mean, it's like
Okay.
basically a cult Catholicism, my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they do pull on stuff from Catholicism. They pull on stuff from, I think, like the Muslim religion. I mean, definitely with Kabbalah and Hebrew in it. I mean, it's right there. That's Jewish. So, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
pretty much got, I think, all three Abrahamic religions in the OTO in a way, believe it or not.
Yeah. So if you
I
desire a
mean,
lot, then
even the Gnostic Mass, Crowley admitted, was kind of based off of Russian Orthodox Catholicism.
what Alistair Crowley did was based off of
Yeah,
Russian.
so he said that influenced him with the
Right.
Gnostic. I mean,
Right.
even if you were to watch it, you'd even see like kind of similarities with church in certain ways.
Okay. Okay. So just to get back on this thought I had, is that I was like completely in it. Like, speaking of being trapped in your own world, right? In your own perception. I was completely in it. And that's a big difference if you had I don't know if it was a whole foot out the door or just like some thoughts out the door the whole time. Is that what you're saying? That you were a little bit not committed? A part of you was not totally committed. Is that how it was? Because you
Well,
also got completely in it, right? You were also
yeah.
swallowed up by it at the same time.
I when I went in and decided to join, first off, the OTO wouldn't have been my first choice. I had looked into other places and there was none near me. And like the Masons, if I wanted to get into learning magic, I would have had to stay there forever and go up in degrees. So like that wasn't an option. The OTO was close to me, but like the thing is that I do believe that Aleister Crowley was an occult genius, but I really don't I don't like who he was probably for the most part. If all the stories are true, I cannot put that guy up on a pedestal. I cannot promote him. He was probably a sick, deranged individual due to probably abusing magic, unfortunately.
Right.
But like he was never somebody I looked up to. And I always kept that in the back of my mind. And that's even just a huge difference at going to the OTO and being around other members because they pretty much do put him up on a pedestal. So like I always had that in the back of my mind. And I wasn't listen, I was into conspiracy theories prior. That's what got me into studying and looking into occultism. And then eventually, because like I was kind of joking about before, I didn't want to be an armchair magician or occultist. I actually wanted to join something and get into it, have the right literature or the right books that you're supposed to work from. Because when you're online, you'll get 10 different ways of doing the same thing. You'll get people in books that refer back to a book and even screw up what the book said. Like I read a book that had talked about Liber Resh that was written by Crowley, and the way they were talking about Liber Resh was not correct in Crowley's own book. So I was like, I guess I'm going to have to join something to actually get, suggested truths, or you should read this, or this is. So that was the main reason why I even joined. And like, again, the OTO was close to me, but again, like what I was going to get at is that I always kept it in the back of my mind because of being into conspiracies, something is probably off with these places. So I didn't ever become naive to that.
You had some skepticism.
Yeah, totally. Even my brother even remembers it. I texted him and told him that I was doing this, and I even told him myself, if I ever find out something really screwed up with this shit, believe me, I'm gonna say something about it publicly if I can somehow, online, whatever, the internet. And like I totally forgot I even said that, and then years later that kind of happened anyway. But I did have it in my mind. I said I'm not going to get caught up in this. This is never going to be permanent.
That's great. That's really you being true to you. But so how many years were you in it?
I mean, I was probably in it like about 5 years, if not a little bit more.
5 years.
You get up to the fourth degree, which I did not do. I did not do the fourth degree, but like the fifth degree and on, you have to be, shoulder tapped or asked. You have to be asked to go up. So like even when I knew that the fourth was probably the farthest I'd go. And I do know some women that took the fifth degree, and after they took the fifth degree, they happened to have a cross kind of carved or burnt into their chest. And at that point on, I was like, there's something up with these people who did the fifth degree and have this, at least with the women.
Yeah.
And there was even one of my other boys even mentioned it and pointed it out to me. He's like, I think that's a little bit much. He's like, do the guys have to do that?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, but I ain't finding out.
Exactly. So just to be clear, having a cross, like this is physical, right?
Yeah, I mean, unless that was some really good special effects.
Yeah.
It was real.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, I take it seriously with having.
I mean, there's a book out there. It doesn't go through all of them, but it's called I think, The Secret Rituals of the OTO.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think everybody in the OTO probably knows about it and downloaded it or have it or somewhat, whatever. But like me and a couple of people that all joined around the same time, and there was like 2 or 3 people that I actually became kind of close with while I was there.
Yeah.
And they were actually from Long Island. And I mean, we were like basically doing the initiations of the degrees together. There was me and 2 other people that did like the first, second, Minerval first, second, third, like all together.
Okay.
And like we would all talk and stuff, and we were pretty cool with each other. And like we were reading this book, and we were both like, "Oh, do you think this is actually going to happen?" But like before I did any of the initiations, I already kind of knew like what kind of weird shit was going to be, needed. And so like just the fact of Minerval's the first one, which is kind of like halfway in, halfway out. You're an honored guest. You can come to closed meetings now. But when you become a first degree, a full member, I mean, you're going to have to get naked. And
Yeah.
I knew that prior to even taking it because it was in the book. So
Yeah.
like I even knew to a certain extent what I was gonna have to do. And I kind of knew where my cutoff was. I'll be totally honest with you. I almost didn't take the first because I didn't like the fact that I had to get naked. I'll be totally honest with you. It bothered me. You know, I'm insecure in a sense. I'm not gonna lie. You know, I was like, I'm not trying to get naked in front of these motherfuckers. But then, like, not to sound like an asshole, but at one point I was just like, not that I don't think I'm God's gift to women, but I was like, if these people got naked, I should not care.
Exactly.
There was even a way that they'd sell it to you. They like, we've all done it before anyway, so what's the deal? And I'm
Okay.
like looking at some people, and I'm like, fuck, I wouldn't want to see you naked. So I guess me up there isn't that bad. And due to reading the book, and it wasn't again, I'm not justifying that you have to get naked, but in that degree, it is pretty much like a dark room, and I think like two candles. So I mean, even after I went and I did it, when you do the initiation, you sit down with everybody else that's there, and then you watch the other person go. All you're seeing is a black figure walking through. Like even the
Okay.
female that walked through, I couldn't really even see her shape. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, thank God, as I'm watching. It was like nobody saw anything except for like the poor chick holding the candle, like reading to me. I was like, she had to see my shit, but that was weird.
Okay. So it wasn't as tough as
No,
expected.
but I mean, it's still very weird.
Yeah.
I mean, they even do a point where, you know, it's very, I think, deeply encoded with a few things. But like, there is a time that you will actually get like a rope tied and you will be walked. And I was thinking about it after the fact. I was like, if
Like
you
a
were
dog?
like, yes, I was like, yo, if you were to be like
What?
up in the sky looking down on the lodge with the roof ripped off. You know what I'm saying? If you were like looking down into a dollhouse and watching a reenactment of what happened, I was like, they just walked me around like a fucking dog. I was like, that's very subservient, and you probably don't even realize you're doing it.
But is that the point?
But
The
it's probably
submission?
gonna stick with your mind. I'm sure that's gonna stick with you somehow.
Yeah.
They even talk about this times in these initiations where they'll hit you or tap certain areas.
Hmm.
They'll tell you after the fact that was to activate a chakra. Well, now how do I know what you're trying to do? How do I know what you're trying to do is good or bad for me? You know,
Yeah.
because like you're in these initiations, this is just my experience, because they're weird, or you're worried about what's, you know, coming or going to happen. As I'm in it, I'm thinking about what the hell just did I just do, or what just happened? What did they just say? And what's coming next? I'm hardly ever actually in the moment. I like observing everything because I'm too stuck in my head about what's coming next. What did this guy just say? Because, you know, they talk in these archaic things. So it's like they
Oh,
ask you questions, and I got to sit there for like 2 minutes just trying to think about like, what did he even ask? You know,
of course.
you know, and it's like if your answer isn't good enough, they may keep asking you again. So it's like you could be stuck. Like you're not really. For me, I wasn't stuck in the moment a lot. So there was a lot of things that it's like, and I think most people are like that, and you'll probably miss stuff because you're so stuck in your head. You know, so I wasn't even comfortable with that after realizing that. Yeah, because like they'll do classes after you do an initiation. Let's say I do the first degree. Probably a month later, they'll have a class to talk about it with all the people who took it. And if you've already taken it,
Ah.
come. And at one point, one of the guys who was teaching the class did mention that, like, oh, you know, we slap you on the side to activate that chakra. And I was like, oh, at least you're telling me now. You know, and maybe, you know, some people, it may not even make a difference. It may not even matter to them. But just to me, I just thought that was interesting. You know, I was like, you're kind of like activating certain things on my body without even telling me or asking me.
Exactly. I mean,
And then doing weird shit around.
it sounds like it's a lot about submission and someone else holding the truth rather than you. At least
Well,
in.
that's my experience with why I think I was so upset with the OTO and why like
Mhm.
why it was the final straw. I mean, there was a few reasons why it was really the final. There were two final straws. The
Mhm.
fact that they pushed socialism and communism at one point, and
Okay.
I also do believe that these, at least with the OTO, but I'm assuming most secret societies are probably the same way. Uh, I think it's a psyop, actually. I think that you will just be a slave and not know what real magic actually is. And I think like it's done on purpose. I don't think they actually are trying to make it easy for you to figure out magic. You're gonna have to be a detective like I was the whole time you're in these things. You're gonna have to question everything they say, everything they do. because everything is neither spoken in an occult language or in a cipher. So they could be saying sentences that actually mean something completely different because there's ciphers in occultism. I mean, you could write pages of shit and it to be in a cipher.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like,
I have to ask, what is that word? Cipher. What's that?
I mean, it's kind of like when you start playing with numbers and letters and like values of them. The Masons have ciphers. The Rosicrucian had ciphers. I'm sure Aleister Crowley gives you a cipher inside the Book of the Law. I mean, it's basically like gematria, but kind of like almost making up it your own.
Okay, okay.
No, but I mean, like the same thing. Like I could be reading a book, a regular book, and it could make sense. Well, almost make sense to me. You could like run it through a cipher, and it could actually be spitting out something completely different. You have no idea.
Okay. I mean, I do feel a little bit like this when I watch your program. It doesn't. I feel like just sticking around still, but there's a lot of words that are either there's swear words, or words I don't understand, or words I thought I understood, and you are putting a different meaning to it.
Oh
That's,
yeah, the
that's
swear
a
words. I'm trying to get a little bit better with that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so I just have to
But what I
ask.
was, I
Hmm?
forgot what I was saying with that.
Yeah, sorry, the cipher.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't remember where I was going. But I just think that I think they're psyops.
That's it.
My opinion with the OTO, they seem to kind of glamorize the dark, which I understand because I think that's a part of it. I think you have to actually go into the darkness in a sense. But to destroy your own demons and to release like the chains that have you binded here. It's not to play with them and have a good time and hang out. You're supposed to do what you got to do and get going.
Mm.
I think they kind of like advertise sexuality, the darkness of magic, and I think it's people hang on to it too much. They think that is the magic. The best way to put it, I think the OTO glamorizes the handcuffs that stop people from knowing what magic is. And that's kind of like what screws people up.
Mm.
Like people will be like, "Oh, well, I'm just embracing my shadow self." It's like, no, you're running with something that's actually just making you more deranged or more spiritually dead. I guess put it that way. So I do think that the OTO in a way is like really kind of like advertising or glamorizing the negative aspects that you have to render under your control to have a magical experience. And I think people don't see that. I think they get it confused and think like, oh, that's what being a magician is.
Mm. Hmm. And your point is that they have a power that we don't see, because I wouldn't know about that. I wouldn't know that there are secret societies working to advertise our shadow side in a way that's actually gets us tangled up even more in them. But that's part of is that part of your point? Have I understood that correctly? That they have power and they look like normal people, and then they're like pulling some threads. Please correct me when because
Yeah, no, I know. I'm just I don't know how to I just again like the way the image of it is. I don't know if it's the way Crowley had made the
mm,
OTO in the beginning. I don't know if it became like this,
mm-hmm,
but the image of it and kind of like the way people kind of look at it, I think like my opinion, they're being confused, like again with the handcuffs instead of freedom.
mm-hmm. What
You
is
know,
what is freedom then?
I think not my opinion, not being controlled by
Mm,
guess like more of like earthly animalistic things. Again, like listen, I'm not vanilla, I'm not a prude, but when it comes to sex, there is a fine line with that, I think, where it becomes a problem. It's very easily to fall onto that side, to become a slave to sexual
absolutely.
urges, whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you put it this way: the first initiation, you're already naked. You know
Mm,
what I'm saying? So it's like sexual in the Gnostic mass, the priestess gets naked. So I mean, sexuality or sexual nudity to an extent is already thrown in your face. And most people there are like, oh, boobies. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like it's in my opinion, even sex magic and certain things with sexuality has nothing to do with actual sex. In my opinion, I think physical sex is a psyop. when people think that that's actual magic.
But
Sex magic is actually, just my opinion, it has to do with changes going on inside of your brain, your eyes, and your soul slipping out of your body. It has nothing to do with actually screwing anybody. It is removing the physical sex of your soul. You're removing the flesh from the soul. So, I mean,
that is sex magic, removing the
that's
flesh.
that's my that's my opinion of magic in general.
In general,
Magic
okay.
with a K in general
Mm-hmm.
is removing your soul from the flesh.
Mm-hmm.
It's like pretty much like if you're asked to traveling, you're on your way. And like the thing is, both male and female came together. You have to think of it like they come together and cross the streams and then birth out. They birth out like a child or a baby. You know what I'm saying? It's almost as if you're unraveling that. You have to unravel the past of how you got put here, in a sense. So like it's kind of like sex, but not in the physical sense. It's like you almost have to undo the fucking that was done. As silly as weird as that sounds,
No, but it's so it's. Do you know that feeling when you don't quite understand something, but you kind of, it's like, oh, this is opening my mind. It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
Like it.
a lot of people always depict the third eye as like an eye, but the other way. I mean, is it really hard to start looking at a third eye and thinking that could look like a vagina? I mean, it's be adult stuff. You know,
Okay, so just maybe because I have different questions or other questions, but just to finish this segment of nudity and sex and magic, uh, what was the motivation or the agenda around being that you had to be naked in that ceremony or in that
I
initiation?
there could be multiple things. I mean, if I'm wrong and they actually do want somebody to actually get it, it could even just be the annihilation of fear of doing. But I'm not too sure if that's really behind it. I think it has a lot to do with subserviency.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Subservient and what can we get you to do right away? How bad do you want this?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe even like people just to see people's reactions after the fact. Because like if there was, believe it, and the crazy thing to me, which is I thought was funny, is probably half the dudes that I knew from the OTO are probably not even heterosexual. Like whenever there was like a first degree, if there was a female taking it, oh my God, that place would be packed. Even though you're not going to see anything.
Mm-hmm.
It was, of course, like it's just it's just obvious that there was like thirsty, sexualized people there.
Okay, so that's okay. But then the other part you started talking about is that you find that some people confuse sexuality with magic.
Yeah. Or yes. I think so.
Mm.
Or they I don't know how to explain it because I even think like it's even done with witches a lot too. It's hard to explain, but I think kind of like how do we put this? Other religions,
Mm.
especially Catholicism, other religions can really put you down for thinking about sex.
Exactly. I'm just thinking about that. I'm thinking
So
about
like
how Christianity was.
you
Yeah.
go from like one extreme all the way to the next.
Okay.
And either side, I don't think is either good. Having either a salt and pepper diet or we're going to throw every fucking spice we have in the cabinet on the food. You know what I'm saying? You went from like one extreme to the next. There's no balance.
Okay.
I think it's more like
But
that.
it is interesting, and I've reflected on it in a in a solo episode in this podcast before, with sexuality and the whole relationship between the whore and the prostitute and the saint, or the whore and the sacred feminine. So I was just curious if you.
Well, see, that's even why I think she's called a whore. If you understand magic and you know what's needed to do with magic, the feminine energy will not say no when you want to do it. She will never say no. She'll let you pass. She'll let you do it.
Okay,
She lets everybody do it. So yeah, she can be a whore because she never says no.
that sounds exhausting.
No, but if you want to look at it in And the way that I was explaining it before, the change going on in the body, opening up your third eye and all that stuff, I do think,
Okay.
what's needed to be done. You will be allowed to pass.
Yeah.
It's like the
Okay.
never ending story where the kid walked through the columns. As long as you're doing what you're supposed to do, she will let you pass.
Okay. Right. Okay. So this is just an example, I think, of what happens also when I listen to you in your other episodes in your programs is that you say something that's a little outside of my reach, and then I have to follow that thread somehow.
Sorry.
Find out. No, that's good. That's a good, because it's daunting to just hear something that I already know, right? It's like yeah. So I like this. But I have questions also around your name, because that's a mysterious thing that you're just called NY Patriot and probably
And I,
not.
I, would, I would have came up with a different name, honestly.
You would have come up. It's not you are making the name.
I mean, it is my name. I mean, I did make it up. It's just, unfortunately, Patriot has become synonymous with QAnon.
Okay.
That's the whole other psyop. So, and I actually think there's a secret society involved with that one. But completely, just unfortunately, it just, Patriot seems to be very synonymous with politics and QAnon. And even though I might have fell into that for like a 3-month period, it's really not me. I mean, but the Patriot thing was kind of like, people associate that with kind of like politics. And again, like for me, it was more of like freedom of the mind, not being a slave to your mind. It really wasn't so much like politics and, Patriot missile. That's explosive energy. I mean, Jack Parsons, he was in the OTO. He liked missiles. He liked rockets. It is an explosive burst of energy. And I do think that's what's needed to break out of the physical self. So in a sense, it's very, put it this way, it's very beast-like symbolism to me.
Okay.
And in my opinion, you need to awaken the beast to go through the whore. So it's kind of like, very deeply occulted too, the name, believe it or not.
Okay. Yeah, because I was thinking about it, if it was because, okay, so I understand that you took this name,
I mean,
but
look at Elon Musk. That's all he does is shoot off rockets, and he's an occultist, I believe.
okay, is he?
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
It is
A lot of his stuff, I don't know if
how do
I'm
you
ever going to get
assess
to
that?
it.
Sorry,
I
how
don't,
do you assess that?
well, I think the stuff he says and the stuff he does, I was going to, I mean, even with his family, even his mom. But like, not to drag this out, but like, I did do one episode and it hasn't dropped yet because I didn't do part two, but I did an episode where we kind of covered his background, which in my opinion will show like kind of like weird occult ties. But then like a lot of his posts that I had saved and screenshot that just seemed weird. And like, I want to go through some older ones and kind of take them out. But a lot of them, if you start running them with gematria, a lot of his posts, if you run it like with gematria stuff, you'll start getting a lot of the same matches. And he kind of matches a lot of stuff that actually are in your eyeball. You get a lot of number play that match actual stuff inside your eyes, which I know some people may not want to believe it, but the stuff inside your eyeballs is used in occultism. It's not called occultism for no reason. It has to do with your eyes. You can't see what's inside your eyeballs because you're looking out of them. I can't see what's going on inside my own body. That's occult to me. What's going on inside of me is occult. I can't see it.
That's hidden. Yeah. Okay.
So I mean, even Crowley was getting into eyeballs before
Okay.
he dropped dead. There's a secret society of opticians, whatever, eye doctors. There's something up with that. There's something up
There,
with eyeballs. I
even
mean,
even in therapy, we talk about with the eyesight, right? That if you have a lot of trauma, maybe a certain kind of trauma, you can lose your eyesight. Or some
I
of
mean,
it.
if you think about this, as soon as you open up your eyes are sucking in the light around you and converting into an electrical impulse into your brain. We literally convert light into electricity inside of our fucking eyes. That's serious.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
It is very weird. And again, this is like, I don't know a lot about this.
You know,
So,
the optic nerve is what changes light into electricity.
God.
And in the Minerval degree in the OTO, you are given the word on as a god name.
You're
Oh,
to be called that?
no, that's the word. That's one of the words, the secret words I'm not
Wasn't.
supposed to.
Oh, you just told
Yeah,
us.
it's called On. It's a god
On.
name. It's God.
On.
Yeah, On. O-N.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, in my opinion, is the optic nerve.
Ah, there it is. Okay. But no one told you that.
Think
That's
about
just.
this. You flip a switch, what happens? Electricity, electric.
Yeah.
Your optic nerve creates electric.
Yeah.
Your eyeball looks like a light bulb.
Huh.
Very weird stuff.
What about, because when you say electric, do you also believe in like the electric field all around us?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure, for sure. You know how I think you can even prove that? You know, and I'm not a big fan of this, and it was bought for me as a gift, but like I have the AirPods 3, the new generation.
That sounds like a good present.
Yeah, you go to put those things, if you go to put those things in your ear, but
Yeah.
slightly not all the way in, you will hear it knock out the sound before it's even inside your ear. It's supposed to be like sound eliminators.
Okay.
So, in my opinion, those headphones itself must be generating some sort of field to knock out the sound before it even goes in your ear.
Mm.
I'm sure our bodies can do that.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So I'm trying to like go with you, but I also want to stay on my questions.
Go
So
wherever you
just
want
let me know when you have something very important. But okay, so it was about the name, and I thought maybe it was like a mystical thing where you don't want to tell people your real name because then they can control you, right? Because there is something about when you can identify something verbally, it gives you power.
You know, well, actually, believe it or not, the first kind of why I did give myself a name at first instead of going by Nick, which I have no problem doing now. People can call me Nick, whatever.
Okay.
I think was probably because like when I came out right off the bat with my podcast, I was already like pretty much like repeating stuff about the OTO. I wasn't. I actually did the Minerval first, second, and third degree initiations on my show. In about a month after that, I got hit with a DMCA and Spreaker, BitChute, Rumble, YouTube, everything I had it on came down. So I don't want people to think that BitChute and Rumble is safe.
Okay.
If they get hit with a letter from somebody who's in the legal system, because there were lawyers at the lodge that I went to, and one of them like kind of worked for them. If they could receive a letter and saying that someone is using copyrighted material they don't have permission to use, they're going to take it down, and they did. So when it came down, I was just like, maybe I should just still stay like anonymous.
Yeah.
And then eventually, I guess like when I had an idea of what I wanted to do and what I really wanted to try to do with my shows, it really wasn't that big of a deal to hide who I was anymore because I wasn't like I was going to cover other things. You know, I wasn't going to just keep on pointing the finger at the OTO. I wanted to research, cover other topics. And I really didn't worry too much about like who I was. But the thing was, it's just like, all right, the OTO know who I am now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, I don't know. So it was like a little weird, but eventually I was just like, screw it. I started showing myself. I was going on other shows and I thought it was weird to have a conversation with some, like an avatar. So like I'd start putting on my camera. I was like, screw it. I don't care. I can't, I'm thinking in myself, I'm like, I can't. This is a funny thing with my co-host at the time. We're sitting here and saying that like fear, I think, is a big motivator right now. And I think fear is created by secret societies to control people. And here I am still allowing them to make me afraid.
Ah, yes.
And I was like, I left I'm not mentioning anybody's specific names. I'm not giving addresses. I'm not causing anybody, actually, their will isn't being impeded on by what I'm saying. So why should I be so scared? But I kept it off for a while, and then eventually, like, I was like, screw it, I really don't care. My co-host on the Occult Rejects, he never once put on his fucking camera once.
Okay.
No, he was scared to death. It was
Okay.
really weird, though. I was like, how are we out there trying to promote people not to be fearful anymore? That fear is a problem, and we're sitting here fucking scared to death to say who we are and show ourselves. Just made no sense to me anymore, and I didn't like being controlled.
No.
So I was like, screw it, whatever. And I started putting on the camera. I started telling people my name. I don't give a shit. It's been almost 3 years. Nobody said anything to
Oh,
me. I
that's
haven't got
good.
one
Okay.
personal message from somebody in the OTO. I haven't
Okay.
gotten a personal message from anybody on my legit Facebook account that I used to have and use that they all knew me from. But like eventually, putting it this way,
Okay.
this is another thing that broke. Eventually, because of putting my camera on, now I had already backtracked real quick. I already filled out paperwork to leave the order. I wanted to leave, and in order to actually get your name removed permanently, you have to fill out paperwork. I could stop going and become an inactive member, but I'll still be on their list, even though I'm not an active member anymore. That wasn't good enough for me. I wanted the whole thing removed.
Yeah.
So I did that, and I was just waiting to hear something back. And eventually, because I was showing who I was now, somebody, I guess, in the OTO is keeping tabs on the show and eventually saw my face and was like, oh, that's Nick from Tahuti Lodge. And a couple of weeks, I guess, later after that, or whenever, it could have happened fast, I got an email from the lodge master in my personal email that used to be used when I was in the OTO, telling me that this whole situation, we found out that you've gone on podcasts and that you have a podcast and you've repeated things you're not supposed to say. And I have to like send that to the higher ups, and there will have to be like a decision made about this. And as of right now, you're being put on probation. You can't, show up or do anything until we decide what's going on with you. I didn't get another email back, but about 3 weeks later, I got a letter in the mail from the outer head telling me that I was kicked out.
Okay.
I was kicked out, and the guy signed it with a sigil,
Okay.
like in pencil. And so I threw that out. But it's very interesting. It's like, what were you trying to do there, buddy?
But that's what you wanted anyway. You were applying to get your names removed.
So I was like, okay, thank you.
Right? It was
But
like an
they
easier
knew
way,
who I was.
maybe.
Like now they knew who I was, and that's
Yeah.
probably been a year and a half now, if not longer.
Okay.
Nothing's happened. It's just like I think a lot of, in my opinion, and somebody that I've even done a show with that is a Mason, paranoid American. I had even made the comment that I think if you truly understand what magic is, when they're making these threats, it doesn't apply to you. And he had said himself, he's like, that's actually kind of a thought.
It is kind of a
Green
thought.
Masonry too. He says, if you actually understand what they're saying, if you understand occultism that good, you're going to realize these things actually aren't threats.
Okay, now that calms me down, because I was like, it does sound like a real threat that if these are really powerful people.
Crowley did the same shit. I mean, look at what he did, supposedly. I mean, first off, he got kicked out of the Masons.
Okay.
He was, whatever. Then he went and joined the Golden Dawn, supposedly. Left the Golden Dawn and published all their shit, pretty much. Rituals that were not for the public, he put in his own books and publicized.
Great.
And he was still walking around.
Yeah.
I think people sometimes in the conspiracy community actually get like a little bit more, I think, scared of things than it really is. I'm just gonna say that.
Okay, no, that's good. That's good to know.
There's a lot of people I also think that have been known as whistleblowers and actually didn't die.
Yeah.
So that's another whole in its own. But I think, like, because of us being programmed to believe that, I think everybody just assumes, if you open up your mouth, you're gonna get knocked off.
I mean,
there's plenty of ways of opening up your mouth without getting specific.
Yeah, that's right. So you can say, you can defend yourself. Say, I didn't.
Like I was saying before, when I talked about the OTO, I never really even said what specific lodge I went to.
No, yeah.
I never mentioned the name of anybody I was there with.
No.
Who am I hurting?
But how much do you think of the appeal that what you do now publicly has is due to that kind of fear almost? Because there's something very appealing to your cult and the rejects and the things that you're talking about, these secrets and this alternative truth sometimes almost of what's going on in the world. There's an appeal to that
Mm-hmm.
because it seems like it's a bit scary, it's a bit dangerous that you are
I
speaking
think
like
in order,
this.
I think unfortunately, and I'm not, I don't know how this is going to sound, and it's almost very Crowley-esque, but but I'm not trying to go that way. But I do think if you want to understand occultism and occult symbolism, you're gonna have to stare into the dark a little bit. You're gonna have to look, you're gonna have to not be ignorant to things that are going on in this world. You're gonna have to actually, doing shadow work can be
Yeah,
very dark in itself because you actually have to look at how screwed up you can be or how screwed up your thinking is,
I
how
I
screwed up your actions are.
I agree, but can you then now separate that for us from what you said in the beginning that these societies have become obsessed with the dark compared to what you're saying now?
That's what I mean. You have to look at it like with no, like again, going back to a detective. If you want to be a really good detective, you actually, and to an extent, I think it's a negative thing, but you have to remove a lot of emotions and just look at things for how it is. Take the emotions out of the equation and look at how it is, like I did with my initiation. I took the emotion and the experience out and looked at what I was actually doing and realized I got walked around like a dog.
Yeah.
I'm not going to deny that because it might hurt my ego and be like, wow, I just got made a fool of. No, I put my emotions to the side and looked at what happened.
Yeah. Are you traumatized? I was thinking this prior when you were speaking about that. Are you traumatized from these initiations? Are you sure?
I don't think so, no.
It sounds traumatizing.
Again, like I said originally, because like I knew that it was going to be in a dark room. That if it wasn't like that, I probably would have never went any farther. Believe it or not. It's,
The
but
dark helped.
yeah,
Yeah.
but that and then like the next one, you stay. The first one, the first degree, you get into like a makeshift tub. It's kind of like a reenactment of being birthed again. So you're going to be naked.
Okay.
But like the second degree, like you got inside the tub, but like you did it with your robe on. So I was like, all right, there's no nudity in that one. I'll go further. You know what I'm saying? But like if it kept on getting weirder, I definitely would have like not have gone as far as I.
So I want to leave some time to talk about astrology as well,
Yeah.
but I think it is an interesting topic with whether this can create a trauma because I talk a lot about religious trauma, which I definitely think there is, and
Well,
and
just
what? Hmm?
I think it does create trauma,
Okay.
which is I think is what's part of the psyop there. I just remember it's just I mean it may have created trauma on me why I was there, but eventually when I left, I mean, I think things aren't that might have changed, but I do think that's the problem with the order is that people do get in a sense kind of traumatized in a way
Okay.
and they keep going with it. It's almost like believe it or not in a sense. I think MK Ultra and magic are very synonymous.
Say that
So
real slowly to me. I'm from Denmark. I need to.
I think MK Ultra and magic are pretty much like almost the same thing.
It's a certain kind of magic you're talking about. Maybe that I don't know.
So MK Ultra.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't know what that is?
No.
Oh, wow. That's like that was an experiment done by the government for mind control.
Okay.
It was like to, fracture people's minds, make different identities, make people the way you want them to be. I do
Oh.
think magic is used in that. And basically what I'm getting at is like I do think the initiations can kind of like you were saying, like maybe if I didn't like the fact that I had to get naked, I'm just gonna push that back into the back of my mind, try to forget about it, create a different identity, whatever, all sorts of weird. I
Okay.
do think it's traumatizing enough to where it starts to psyop the person and they don't understand what real magic is. In that sense, I can agree. I do think the initiations and the thought process there and the way other people's even act, it's very screwed up, I think.
Okay, let me ask you one more question about this. What are you most angry about?
They don't tell. I said before, I think real magic is actually like separating your soul from the body. They'll never tell you that. They'll never. I don't think they'll never come out and tell you what real magic is before you start getting involved. And that's where I have the issue with that. I think people need to, as crazy as it sounds, and I guess maybe that's a reason why they don't. Because I mean, I guess if all these secret societies started, making it publicly known, oh yeah, if you want to experience real magic, you're gonna have to actually technically die in a sense, and your soul's gonna have to leave your body. People probably like flip the fuck out and freak out if they actually thought and entertained that that's reality. So I mean, maybe that's why, but like they will never come out and say that. And I think if you're gonna screw around with magic for real, you need to know that because if you don't, I think you're going to get psyoped and caught in the bullshit. You're going to get caught in the woo woo and you're just going to keep walking farther away from a magical experience.
Mm. Mm. Yeah.
I think they need to be, or magic itself, people who practice magic and understand occultism, they need to start being a little bit more honest and coming out and saying what magic is. It's like nobody, even people who have had the experience, I don't think they don't like coming out and talking about this stuff.
So it's the anger is about the dishonesty, and also I hear like a breakage of your trust. It let you down because you actually came into this. You sought this secret society because you wanted some more formalized way of living this spiritual life. Being
Yeah, it was like I've said it before. It's like I got lied to with religion and I got lied to through the OTO. And it wasn't until I was able to be unbiased and actually look at something without worrying about my ego would I have ever realized that.
Right.
That was like, I mean, again, like I was saying, near the end when I wanted to leave the OTO, one of the reasons why I wanted to leave is because when COVID came around, they did crumble with the CDC. They closed down the lodges. You could not come to they were not doing anything at the lodge. Everything was done on Zoom. And I'm like, the church down the block has got their doors open. So Jesus has more bulls than hordes right now. So I just thought that was like so weird and shady. And then, because of them shutting down, they were doing a lot of things on Zoom. I had probably not gone to a meeting anyway in months. But I was like, oh, you know what? I was like, if they're doing it on Zoom, I could just put in my headphones. I could be vacuuming my apartment and just listen. Because a lot of it was like they were doing book readings, a whole bunch of stuff that it's just like basically there was only one or two people running it and everybody was listening. You don't have to do anything, just be there. So I was like, I could be doing anything and listen. So I jumped on a few of those just to be like, something to listen to. Everything shut down. There's nothing going on. It was like during the lockdown.
Sure.
So it was just like something to do. And one day I got an email and it was like, we're going to, have basically a come together about George Floyd and what happened. And I was like, what? I was like, this has nothing to do with magic. The OTO is very much like, and I hate bringing up, it's just the only thing I think I can think of easily, the Alcoholics Anonymous, AA. They do not have an opinion on anything besides how are we going to keep this running, and that's it. Or, they have an opinion on how to stay sober maybe.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with politics, anything.
So they're neutral. Yeah.
OTO is supposed to be like that. So I was like, why am I? So at first, I even thought it was weird. Why am I even getting an email from an official OTO email?
Yeah.
So I thought this was weird. So like, I went and checked it out. And because I was like, I got to check out this shit show just to be a fly on the wall. And it ended up turning basically almost into like a group therapy where everybody in the room, if you wanted to, we can go around now and talk about, our experiences with racism. Not everybody spoke, like me and a few other people skipped because I was like, this is fucking silly now. So they did a little kumbaya circle. And then all of a sudden we got to one of them who was one of the lawyers there. Starts ranting and raving about how we cannot let the government deem Antifa as domestic terrorists. Our Bill of Rights and all our laws will go right out the window and the country will be over. They started promoting BLM and then they started asking if we wanted to maybe meet up and go to any protests.
Okay.
And I was like, at this point, you were a socialist breeding tent.
Yeah.
And there were people that were in the OTO that were open socialists and communists. There were people on their Facebook page, on their picture, they had socialists right under, or communists right under their picture. They were open.
Mm.
That was like another thing. Like I never even knew what the fuck a socialist or a communist was until I went there.
Okay.
I had no idea. I was never really into politics. And I grew up out of Long Island.
Mm.
And I guess looking at it now, Long Island, where I was from, was predominantly like a conservative, like a Republican.
Okay.
So then, like when I moved out to Queens, I mean, that was a total different culture shock to me to begin with. Once I moved out to the city, but like even going to the OTO, I was just like around people that I was like, "Fuck, where the hell did you people come from?" But like I started getting into like a lot of more different mindsets and ideologies, and there were people there that were very open about being socialist and communist.
Right. Well, the thing about being among people with different mindsets, that's a useful thing.
Oh no! I think it was to help learn a lot of different. That's the thing about the OTO. I mean, you could be into Egyptian gods, you could be into Norse gods, you could be into a bunch of different things. You don't have to actually just be set on like the people, the gods mentioned in the OTO. So you'll be around a bunch of people with a lot of different beliefs, and that can kind of help if you want to make correlations and stuff. But
Right. Yeah.
the thing
It must.
is that, in my opinion, I just felt like socialism and communism, in my opinion, is like kind of the opposite of magic.
Yeah. It is. Yeah.
So I found that weird.
At least it needs to be discussed, right? If it's said that it's neutral. Okay, but I'm realizing that we have. Do we only have 10 minutes? How much?
No, we can go to 10 o'clock. Go to 10 o'clock.
Really? Okay. I thought maybe 75. Okay, great. Because NY Patriot is gonna do some other show.
Yeah, I have a live show every Tuesday at 9:30, and I totally. When you said
Okay,
9:30,
great.
I was like, "Oh, that's perfect." And I was like, "Oh, that doesn't really give me much time."
Right. Okay. So I'm skipping a little bit, but we can, if there's something important around this, we'll just come back to it if we have time, right? But I wanted to ask about because we had an exchange on Instagram with the smoking, right? And you were like, "Oh, it's legal in New York."
Yes.
Yeah, and I was wondering if do you smoke to heighten your level of consciousness?
So yeah, actually, sometimes, believe it or not, I will do that. For me, sometimes when I do smoke, if I don't get too stoned, it almost kind of gets me like in a zone where it's like I almost get in a groove. And I will admit, I have no problem admitting this. I do actually get like anxiety podcasting still. I have
Okay.
I'm totally honest. So believe it or not, sometimes me even just taking a few hits like I was doing here kind of just like removes the fear.
Okay, can you tell me why? Because
I
it's
mean, and
not.
that's not, I mean, I shouldn't be dependent. I'll be totally honest. I shouldn't be dependent on the weed to do that. I should be able to do that myself. And that is something as a magician I should be working on, but I do enjoy, smoking anyway. And believe it or not, I actually had quit smoking weed for about 15 years and only started again because of COVID. When the lockdowns came, I was like, yo, I got to smoke and get stoned to deal with this silliness. Just to walk into a supermarket and look at the madness going on, I got to get high to deal with this shit. And I started smoking again. I was like, this is insane.
Did it give you the desired results then?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'd walk into the supermarket and just be like, fuck, what is, I'd almost look at it and laugh instead of like getting mad at like people are not acting the way I think they should act.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't agree with the shit.
Yeah.
There's sometimes, people will get angry and hateful. It's unfortunate. Just like the left was mad at the people who were going against the masks.
Yeah.
A lot of people, and unfortunately, I think this whole thing was just to make people hate each other anyway. So like instead of like letting it really get to me, I was just like, I'll get stoned and just kind of take like entertainment.
Yeah. Okay. But interesting with the fear, because now we just talked about not being afraid of the society and the consequences of speaking out. But then there's another kind of fear, another kind of anxiety. And I've spoken a lot about it in these few chapters I have of Therapeutic Astrology Podcast, that I get some kind of blend of nervous and excited to meet someone. But I've actually, when I've meditated on our conversation and that I was to meet you, I felt more calm because that's what you give in your shows. You can actually see you. So this is more this is closer to radio, but I'm doing, and you actually you're doing television, right, on YouTube, and so you can actually see also that you're totally calm. And the thing that I love that you're doing is that you're sometimes it looks like, at least it looks like, that you're not paying attention, because you're writing with listeners, because you're answering everyone who's writing in. I kind of
Oh yeah, yeah.
Right, you're just looking down.
That's the one thing I hate about the live sometimes too, is that like, I mean, I love doing it because I love having the people jump in. I
Yeah.
have a lot of listeners that, I mean, I say it all the time. There are people out there who listen to my show that are more intelligent and know about this more than me.
Okay.
And some of them, they will jump in on the chat and add their stuff, and I think it's great. I love it because it's like, damn, like there's jewels and there's information and knowledge in the chat. So I like doing the lives, but it screws me up sometimes a lot from paying attention to the guest.
Of course.
But there's a lot of reasons why sometimes I will bring on Teresa or Ron or Lisa, just
Yeah.
because somebody else there to kind of like pay attention, back me up. I'm being totally honest with you.
Yes, of course. Oh, but I like it. It just gives this chill attitude, and that is what I have missed. I have been missing back in the
Well,
day. I was joking about television, but back in the day when it was actually television, I missed someone who was being real and who didn't really care how they looked and how they showed, just their appearance. And I feel you send off that vibe, and I have my preconceived ideas, to use that term again, about why, because you have Venus in Taurus, and you're MC in Taurus, and that's kind of how you come across to other people in public. So that's kind of chill, and it allows other people to be natural. So it's a compliment.
thank you. Thank you. No, I like that as one. It's interesting. I've said this before, and again, it goes back to fear, and I guess, again, what we were talking about with smoking.
Mm.
I do. Maybe you found this, but found this to happen. But like since I've been podcasting, it's almost like people who listen to you may all of a sudden think like, "Oh my God, like they're podcasting." Like it's like the only difference between me and some of my listeners is that I lack the fear of getting behind the microphone. I'm not anything special. I'm the same just as you who listen to me. I just don't have
Yeah.
the fear of putting my face on a screen and a microphone. That is fear. Fear is the only thing that's stopping us from doing the same stuff.
Mm.
Again, to me, it all comes down to fear.
Yeah. Yeah. But so, what is that about that anxiety? Is it okay to talk a little bit about that?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's like I would assume for like most people, it's kind of like a normal thing, but uh, I don't know. It's probably not thinking I'm good enough, not
Mm.
thinking I'm doing it right. I mean, a lot of the fear for me in podcasting is just like screwing something up or saying something stupid.
Yeah, but we are bound to do that. That's the whole.
Oh yeah,
That's the whole. That's what is there to be worried about. And yeah, it's stuck, right? It's like now it's out there, and it's gonna be out there for years. And you've said it, and you probably also meant it.
it's actually interesting. And I'll try to. I'm not trying to be cheesy and plug an older episode, but I think it was the Scarlet Horse series that we did, episode 3.
Mhm.
I On that series I made intros, and they're very deeply occulted intros for me. Like it all kind of actually has to go along with what we're talking about.
Oh.
And in the third intro, I had me and probably like 10 other podcasts close to it. I actually all asked them to record themselves talking about the weird random thoughts that pop into your head that fuck your head up. And I layered it as samples during a part that sounds like, fire, bones, teeth chattering, like you were in hell in your mind.
Great.
And most of them was all kind of basically fears, believe it or not, that they all
Oh.
sent. And
So,
I was like, this is amazing. And it's exactly what I wanted to show.
and you
Some
kind of.
reason we put ourselves into hell in our mind. We create these fears that are
Yeah.
and that's
Mm.
what stops us, I think, from growing too. Our souls, and even not to try to sound all hippie like, but I even think as us coming together as a society, or as humans, just acknowledging each other as humans. Fear is what screws everything up. I'm gonna not like somebody because I'm afraid they don't like the way I fucking look. You get a lot of people on the left. It's just like I think they're very fearful and just want a fucking friend.
But that's why I'm as attracted to the name of rejection, right? Being rejected. Because I think that often relates to the fear. Because what happens if you're rejected, then you're outside, then maybe you can't survive. Don't you think that's what the fear is about?
Yeah. No, I think so, for sure. I think a lot of fear has to do with what people, you boil it down to like what people are going to be thought of you, or like the way people perceive you. Really, there's a lot of the fear.
Yeah. Because it has consequences. It has social consequences. How they perceive you.
Yeah, that, or it's like, I don't know what it is, but it's just like at some point, I guess humanity just started to worry about other people's perception. I don't know how to explain it, but it just seems really weird. I mean, I guess to an extent we should, we should to make sure maybe to keep ourselves in check that we're not just not being an asshole in general, an asshole human. But I think for the most part, I do think, so I don't know what it is. Somehow we just really have become slaves to other people's ideas of who we are.
Yeah. And so I'm really starting to hear a clear message for you, because that is something that I asked you about when we were writing is there something in particular that you care the most about? And that might be
part of it.
That part of it, right? About being free rather than being a slave.
Yes. So that is the whole point of my show.
Yeah.
No, I mean, and I do, like, I cover so many different things. You'd be like, well, how is that the point of your show? I'm just trying to show people how occultism really works and how it's prevalent and how it's used, and showing examples. But I do, like, my main objective is really, I want people to find freedom of the mind, be less hateful, be less judgmental, be less afraid, and find out more of who you are and who, whatever God is to you. I mean, that's really, I mean, I've even said it myself, if people were to shut off my podcasts and other podcasts and the news, I did my job. Mm-hmm. I'm happy.
Yeah.
If it even means not listening to me anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because it's
Go
out there.
Find out who you are. Go find you look at these podcasters, it's like, oh my God, look at them. Go find out what you like to do and do it.
Yeah.
Stop listening to what I like to do and go find out what you like to do. Go paint, go draw, go write something, go read something.
Yeah.
Figure out who you are. Think about some dreams that you've had in the past and make them real now. Things that you wanted to do 15 years ago that you kicked to the curb because you're afraid to do it. Do it now. I think instead of us being sucked up in our phones and worrying about what other people are saying and how other people are looking at us, we should just enjoy our lives and do what we want, to an extent.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the default. Comparing and leaving yourself is sort of.
That's what I think is the most worst thing about social media. When I was 15 years old, I didn't have a billion options of looking at, how do I say this the right way? With social media, I have somebody in another country, somebody over in the United States in another state. I have all these options of all these things of like how I should be now because I saw this person do this. I saw this person look like this. I saw this person do this. I have no idea who the fuck I am anymore because I'm bombarded with other people that I should be replicating.
Yeah.
This person got likes for doing that. I should do that.
Yeah.
I have no fucking friends. Maybe if I dress like that, I could be cool like them. It's like really weird. I think social media is actually screwing people up in that way.
And it's really, yeah, I agree. And it's holding you in it. If you want more followers, right? Then you have to do these certain kind of things. And I'm resisting that. So I don't have a lot of followers because I'm really resisting it. But I actually wanted to ask you about that too, like being a reject. This is maybe me putting on you, but it's the name of your show. And but a lot of people, you have a lot of appeal. A lot of people is following you and listening to your show. So is it because there's a lot of people who's feeling rejected, or maybe you're not as rejected as you think?
Uh, you're just going back to what I was saying before, and I'm not patting myself on the back. I think when it comes to occultism, I think we're at a spot where I think people are starting to realize that not everything is so cut and dry as we've been in the past. You know, this is again another thing that I've even tried to change on my own show. I just want people to think. You don't necessarily have to buy what I'm saying completely. Just think. I think in the past, and even from some of the great ones that I've loved listening to, Jordan Maxwell and Michael Tessarian, you got a lot of like, this is this. This means this. And that's just it. There's many layers to occult symbolism. It's not so cut and dry. And I think I kind of go out of the box a little bit. And I do think that's kind of like catching on in a sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Okay.
it's not, it's not that cut and dry. And it's just like the funny thing is, and like I'm even trying to cover it in a sense. I'm trying to, cover this, I guess, mindset that's gone on. I'm trying to now with other people cover like old books or old grimoires or old like, sigils or gods or demons that, older books that were influencing the people that we all know of now. It's not so cut and dry. Like a lot of stuff, like you going through social media, especially Instagram, everything is either Masonic or OTO. Every fucking symbol, regardless how old it is, goes back to one of them. It's not that cut and dry. Not every symbol is always negative as well. I hate to say it. Some of them are just, symbols of light change, I think, inside your body or changes that happen with magic. There is a lot of like, I just think in the last 20 years, we've been spoon fed basic occultism. And if you take it for face value, you're almost believing a lie, actually. Because these people who came before us, they were occultists. That's how they knew all this stuff. And they will still speak in code, most of it. I hate to say it. I don't want to shatter people's, thoughts of Jordan Maxwell. But as much as I loved him, he spoke in code. He was an occultist. So if you believed everything he said at face value, you probably believed a lie in a sense. And I'm trying to not speak in code and just talk on things as they actually are.
Right.
I don't have anybody's thumb above me. I have nobody controlling what's coming out of my mouth.
Isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful being an Aries and can say, I have no one controlling
I mean, put
me.
it this way. Eventually, within the next probably 6 months, my podcast is going to be LLC'd and trademarked. I own the Occult Rejects. I own the name. Nobody's going to control me.
Yeah.
And if I ever got into anything monetarily, which I don't think I'm really going to, I own me. You cannot fuck me and play with me.
Yeah. And I think that is the sound of the healthy aggression, like the anger that has a direction. This is really the message of the anger, is like, these are my boundaries, these are my authenticity, this is who I am, and you cannot trespass. I mean, in NY Patriot, I have a lot of text on your astrology, but I don't know. I don't know how it fits in. I'm just aware we only have a couple of minutes left. Do you want to go to astrology?
If you want to, yeah. If you can do it in like 10 minutes, go for it.
Yes.
I thought it was interesting. I want to hear it.
Yeah, you said you had your chart done, but it was sidereal astrology.
Yeah, I did it on another site with the sidereal.
Yeah. So this is, at least this is different, but you kind of know. This is what I was like being a little bit. Should I talk to you about symbols because you know so much? So this is just from my little side of the world. When it comes
to astrology, the way you do it, you're far beyond advanced than I am.
Okay, that sounds
this
good.
Is probably a lot of this may actually sound like a language to me.
Okay, so. Well, we always have to choose. You have a lot of fire, and I think you can hear that in this episode. That because you ignite easily.
Going by the sidereal, like I think of what I had showed you, I don't remember exactly how yours came out, but like I think I was in Aries, and then I was a Leo moon, and then a Leo rising. I was like, God damn, I was like all three are fire.
Yeah, yeah. In tropical, you actually have the moon in Virgo, which is that kind of mastery of the emotions that you were talking about. Um,
I actually don't know. What about?
but a thing that I don't think it's just me. I think any astrologer would really note that you have Saturn exactly on your ascendant to the degree. That's pretty important, and it's in Leo. So I have some notes here from my teacher, Maurice Fernandez, who's my teacher. So um, these are my notes. It's from his teachings. I'm not sure which is what, right? So I'm just going to read it. It's about a father figure, a tradition with great demands for you to live up to. And whatever that story is, it has inserted a moral compass in you. And this moral compass, it can bring that development that you will rather not do a thing than fail, because it's really intimidating to live up to these giants. And for what? Because if you do that, then you'll be scrutinized, and you might lose that freedom of expression. And that's really the dilemma here with Saturn in Leo, and it's so potent for you because you have it right on the ascendant. It's the dilemma that of wanting to make something great out of your own capacity, and then the fear of not measuring up. And it can be this shadow of a parent constantly in the background of the psyche, bringing that level of intimidation. And it brings in you a need for strong leaders. And you are a strong leader yourself, absolutely. And you're also looking for someone else to show up unafraid, not afraid to tell it like it is. Some guide, some teacher with a strong personality and confidence. But then that can also make you suffer, that kind of teacher that you're looking for, because if you're overpowered by these people or made slave by that tradition, that is a possibility, because there is such a strong need to become a leader in your own right. And so you look for leaders, but actually what you really are seeking, what your heart is longing for, is becoming a leader in your own right. So that should be, and that is the motivation to why that you would connect to a lineage, to a certain tradition, to a certain lineage. And it also makes you extremely creative, and you are that, because I'm just talking about Saturn now, but this is the whole chart here. And it shows that you will leave a legacy. And yeah, I hope it doesn't sound negative, the whole thing about wanting to measure up, but
No, I tell you the truth, I think you were spot on with that, for real. Like that I was just like, wow, that almost hit me kind of. I was like, she's really, again, like I was saying before, because I've realized it in myself. A lot of times when I talk about why I think how humans think, it's because it's how I've thought. And in a sense, a lot of humans, we all think the same. We just have different buttons to push to get our feelings. But again, what I was saying, being fearful of even podcasting. I have let fear before in the past stop me from doing stuff just because I thought it was not going to be good enough.
Yeah.
And it was, like I'm the one who's probably putting the scale on it on what's going to be good enough.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It comes from you. But I think you're really living it, because it's also about respecting other people's voices, because I think we have talked about that, not becoming tyrannical in your own leadership, as you have experienced from others, that you don't do that, but that you respect and allow other people's opinions, that you really are doing in your challenge and all your interviews, so that you take other people's as seriously as you want to be taken seriously too. So,
Well, that was like another thing I think I was trying to get at, and I didn't really get back to it. But like even on my own show, I really don't try to tell people what to think. Basically, it's almost like you have a bunch of minds coming together on my show, kicking around theories and ideas. May
yeah.
not, you know what I'm saying? Could be totally just batshit crazy on that idea, that topic. But I think we need a little bit more, like, not just trying to sound, cheesy, but like more like back in the day when we had people standing around and like talking and theorizing and people just sitting there listening and wondering like, oh, maybe are they onto something? You had people, hundreds of years ago out there talking in public
Yeah.
on ideas and theories of the world and how is it working. And this person learned from that person. They might have heard something from someone else, maybe put it together. I think we just need to start looking at things and entertaining them a little bit more instead of being like, no, that doesn't make sense. At least spend a couple of minutes and then decide it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
No, I think we just no. I think we need to. The crazy thing is, if you were to take the left and the right, they're both fearful and upset about the same stuff. They really are. It's just that they are duped into choosing whichever vehicle they're going to get into bitch about it or to express it. But most people, I think, are very much have the same worries as the next person. And I think if we stopped rejecting what another person thinks,
Yeah,
and were to just listen to each other and be adults about it, I mean, shit would change.
and I think you are changing the whole thing, NY Patriot, because you are creating spaces like this where it feels free to speak, and that's really a talent that you have, that you're doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah. Okay, but you have another show to do now, right?
Yeah, 10:30. Yeah.
I'll take a screenshot real quick. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I think I got something great. I kind of like that we don't exactly know when it is. It's at a sound, so it's good. Okay. Thank you so much.
Of course. Yeah, no, thank you. That was great.
And enjoy your show.
Would you what kind of would you ever be able to come on my show and cover a topic?
Therapeutic astrology is my thing for sure.
Well, that's the whole thing. I don't know. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I really don't know jack shit about astrology and the way you cover it. I might look at it in different ways. So having you on to cover that stuff would be fun. And I had a great chat with you. It was really a time. And for real, getting up that early in the morning to do this, I really thoroughly enjoyed it. For real. That was a really good chat. I enjoyed it.